Welcome to Psychedelic Radio. I'm Christina Thomas, and I'm the president and founder of Myself Wellness. And with me is Charles Patty, Chief Education Officer and Brand Ambassador. Each week, we'll be pushing boundaries, breaking taboos, and shedding light on the use of psychedelic medicines. We want to share expert knowledge and firsthand accounts with those who experience transformative psychic shift using psychedelics. Journeying with us today is Greg Lake. George Lake Esquire is a trial and appellate attorney licensed in Louisiana and Texas. Greg is also an entheogenic church consultant, author of 3 books, Psychedelics and Mental Health series, Psilocybin, The Law of Entheogenic Churches in the United States, and The Law of Entheogenic Churches, Volume 2, The Definition of Religion under the First Amendment. Greg is also the CEO and founder of EntheoConnect, an online digital listing and social media platform for those in the entheogenic and spirituality and medicine scientific communities. Welcome, Greg. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank y'all. I'm honored to be here today.
Welcome, man. It's a pleasure to see you.
Yeah, you too, man.
Well, first of all, man, thank you for your service to humanity. We really appreciate you. And I don't know, I guess getting started, let's get into, what really sparked your passion in this field?
Battling addiction for 17 years. I started building a relationship with the sacred mushroom in 2010. I was in the midst of my addiction. And so I started having religious experiences, and they were all like, hey, you're not going to do anything with yourself until you kick this, right? So I eventually was imprisoned for 32 months. And then through that process started to grow really spiritually, really from the previous downloads I'd received 5 years earlier. A lot of the information started coming back to me, and I was able to pick up on spiritual principles and guidelines internally much quicker than a lot of people. So when I got out, after being, out of society for 32 months, obviously, when you get back out, there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of helplessness. You don't really know what to do after you've been in a structured environment for 32 months. So I again turned to the sacred mushrooms for answers. And this time the experiences took on a whole different character. And I started to be guided by entities through these experiences towards my work in this direction. And from the first time, and really it was my first book is where I was initially guided. And from the first time that I put that first word on paper, the universe has just transpired in every which way to push me further down this path. And so it's all I got to do is wake up with a good attitude, willing to do the work, and the opportunities are here. So it's that's what keeps me going every day. And again, seeing the incidental benefits to society and people, and knowing that through my work, people are getting help, people aren't suffering anymore. Things, especially with veterans, stuff like that keeps me motivated coming back every day to do what I do.
I appreciate it. Man, I appreciate what you're doing. And honestly, I love your openness and honesty about the divine guidance that you received. I received a bunch of divine guidance myself, and it's a real taboo subject to talk about. But I think more and more that this movement unfolds, the more and more mainstream it's going to go. People tapping into higher states of consciousness and having guidance from entities or let's call it, if you want to call them interdimensional beings or whatever label we want to stick on them, that's really what propelled me forward to actually take this leap of faith and start, moving forward in the direction that we are here today.
No, I exactly agree. The reason why I'm so open, it's my religious practice, and it's one of the most important things to me. And I'll never forget, my mom was real big about standing on your principles, and it's if she ever saw me cower down on something that she knew I felt strongly about, she would call me out on it, And so this is one of those things in my life where it's I don't care who hears it, what the consequences are. At the end of the day, it is what it is. And this is what I firmly believe. I mean, I've had real life religious mystical experiences, and who would I be to come out into the world and then deny that or hide that or anything? It is what it is. And I'm very grateful and blessed to have received the guidance, right? There's just other forms of religions didn't really move me in the same way that this does, and gives me an ultimate purpose. And more importantly, help me overcome the fear of death, which I think is really one of the ultimate objectives of religious spiritual beliefs.
No, I agree 100%, man. Listen, I had a, I am not a religious person. I'm a very spiritual person, but like, I had a Jesus experience where I received divine guidance, and Jesus wasn't alone. He was with some other higher dimensional beings. But the truth is that I was very nervous about being open with it at first because I felt like, people would think I was crazy or people would start to slap that label on me. And the truth is that every single message that I got was about getting my life together, about being service to humanity, about really stepping up and taking charge of my life and not continuing down the downward spiral that I was going. So some people might say, oh, this was an evil experience or something like that, but the truth of the matter is every single message that I got was very positive, and it propelled me to become the man that I am today.
Yeah, these direct experiences are so, and granted, there's some of them that took me 8 months to even really piece together what exactly happened and what was conveyed. But once it all became crystal clear, it was like, and one other thing I'll say is that a lot of the things I get from these experiences like play out in my manifest reality, right? So it's like, I sure as hell don't feel I'm crazy because I'm seeing these things play out right in front of my eyes. And I tell people all the time is that when you're using these entheogens for your religious practice, it doesn't take a lot of faith because you literally can see things happening in your manifest reality that jive directly with what you're being told and guided along the way.
I love that you tapped in on that because, the definition of the word psychedelic is mind manifestation. And I can completely relate with you. And I know Christine has witnessed it as well, is that a lot of the stuff, especially with the downloads and the experiences that I was experiencing, have manifested into fruition in our actual lives. So it's, it's like, I'm not just 100% a believer. I'm a knower now, it really does.
Yeah. It's kind of like with my Bufo experience. I feel like when I had my first Bufo ceremony, it's like, it took me back to the place I believe that we all come from, our souls, right? Because when I was there, it felt more like home than any other place I'd been. I knew that I'd been there before, right? And so just that fact alone, and that feeling and that emotional contentment embodied in unconditional love, it's like, I'm not scared of death. Like I feel like I know, and the thing is, maybe I don't know, but like I have acceptable answers for me of where I'm going to go beyond here, that this is just a stop on the road, and I tell people that all the time. It's like, you don't need to be, whatever you want to believe, that's fine. But just, let it be something that suits you, that makes you comfortable, that makes you not scared to death, whatever that is, do that, believe that. I would never try to persuade anybody that I'm right by any stretch of the imagination. It's just my interpretation of this experience played out in such a way that now I'm comfortable with the fact that I'm not going to be here forever, but it's not the end.
I think that's really interesting that you said that, you went back to this place like you've been here before. And I feel like every time I start a journey or an experience, I always go back to this place of like, oh, I've been here before. Like,
yeah.
What is this? Like, oh, I kind of remember this. It's like a soul memory or something. And I think that's really cool that psychedelics can give you that memory.
I can completely relate. It's like, oh wait, nope, I've been here, and it might not
never the same place.
No. And I love the fact that you touched on losing the fear of death. That was one of my biggest things growing up. My dad died when I was a kid. I had this crippling fear of death. I used to wake up every day and be like, am I going to die today? It was like, these days I wake up and say thank you, and I'm in a place of gratitude. Yep. My first thought before was like, oh shit, am I going to die today?
Yep.
And the truth is that like, once you have that fear of death alleviated out of your life, you can really move forward fearlessly and start to manifest your own reality.
We see that every day at the clinic too. Like, we alleviate a lot of people's fear of death, and after that experience, there's a shift in them.
Well, our logo for our company, it basically stands for, it's a symbol for rebirth. And a lot of during these entheogenic or psychedelic treatments that people are doing, they they have a death experience during their trip. And it's not that anybody's physically dying, but they experience this death scenario. And then all of a sudden they come back from it and they're alive. And I feel like not only is it liberating, but it really puts you in this massive place of gratitude. Like, okay, I thought I died, but now that I didn't die, I'm really grateful for a lot of the things that I might have taken for granted in my life up to this point. You know?
Yeah. And it's funny you say that. I'm reading The Immortality Key right now by Brian Marescu, which is talking about Lucinian mysteries. And like the big thing the writers would say about that, the reason why it's so profound is that you die before you die. Because once you die before you die, then you got a little hint of the great mystery, which then can propel you further in life. I mean, if you're not scared of death, we can work back from there and we can live a completely fear-free existence. And that's really where you're getting into obviously places of higher consciousness and love and all that good stuff. And so, yeah, it's incredible. And one more thing I'll say, when I was researching for my third book, I was reading a lot about Stanislav Grof. And when he first started administering LSD, it became really apparent to him very quickly people were having religious experiences. And one of the main things that tipped him off to that is that people were experiencing these death and rebirth processes, right? And coming out with all these just extremely profound insights from it was like what initially tipped him off to say, these people aren't just having some kind of psychosis experience. Like this is actually like a religious, mystical experience. And then obviously you see how it changes their lives. And then you start connecting the dots and you're saying, yeah, that was a religious, mystical experience that this person had.
Yeah. And I feel like talking about these experiences are just so powerful because they're really being swept under the rug in the community. And just, people like you and us who just have, I guess I don't want to say the courage, but to have the voice to be able to go out and say like, yeah, this is actually happening and it's real.
Yeah, no, I say now, I've said ever since I had my first experience like that, it's like, you can't truly live until you've died. And I know it sounds crazy, but if you've experienced it, you totally understand it. And, and like in a biblical sense, like, it's like when they talk about, or even not biblical, but just like, when you talk about having a born again scenario, like I really feel that psychedelic medicines or entheogenic medicines are what's causing people to have these born again experiences where they have this death.
Not even entheogenic, even ketamine.
And ketamine.
Same.
Let's not sleep on ketamine, even though it's not a psychedelic or an entheogenic medicine, but people are having those same exact experiences at our facility a lot of the times, and it's incredibly liberating for people.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree. And one thing too is that you've got to go deep to get to that level, right? And a lot of people, and always encourage people, work up, and do it responsibly, right? But I encourage everyone, like if you're seeking through these experiences some higher truths and knowledge, like you need to push the envelope. And as you're aware, there's nothing a human can say to you during one of these experiences that's going to narrate or pretty, when you're communing with the divine, nothing a human in this third dimension reality can tell you is going to guide you in any sense of direction, right? It's really just, you got to go in. You need someone there to make sure you're safe. You need someone there that can probably help you move you past if you get stuck somewhere. But other than that, it's all on you. And that's part of the experience, is that I'm facing this inside of me all alone, going for it. And it's kind of like when you go on a roller coaster ride, it's kind of real scary, blah, blah. And it's crazy when you do it, and this is how doing trials is for me. But as soon as you're done, you're like, let's do it again, and whether people should continuously do that is debatable. Right. But it's still, you get that kind of sensation when you're over, you're like, wow, that was incredible.
No, yeah, 100%, man. And and I love the fact that you said, you should have someone there to make sure that you're safe. And honestly, this is why Christina and I really don't advocate for the at-home ketamine stuff when it comes to because all of a sudden you give somebody a dose that really hits them hard. All of a sudden they have one of these death experiences, and then they're sitting on their bed alone in their bedroom with somebody on a computer screen trying to talk to them. Or they're rolling around on their bed, and they could end up hitting their head on something or falling off the bed and hurting themselves. I think that having somebody there to really ground you after that kind of experience is incredibly important, because that's when you could question your own sanity or you need somebody to really physically touch your hand and tell you that things are okay after that, because it could throw you for a loop,
especially when you're new to to these kind of experiences and journeys.
No,
Yeah.
yeah.
Ketamine, like you say, it's a dissociative. And like when you're in dissociative state, it's very unpredictable. I mean, what could happen, what you could do, get up. Like, the thought of someone doing a therapeutic dose of ketamine without someone live person either in the vicinity or, kind of like at y'all's facility, I think it's the perfect setup because, you're able to see people. So if something starts going wrong, y'all can be in there immediately, but at the same time, they're kind of alone and isolated at the same, simultaneously. I think it's the preferred setup. I'm kind of like you. I kind of shudder at the thought of people like without someone physically there engaging in such a deep and intense experience,
For sure, man. So I guess, so I would love to ask you the question of, because and you got a massive following in the entheogenic world. And, there's a lot of taboos and stigmas that are associated with synthetic medicines like ketamine. And I was wondering if you might want to share any kind of personal experience that you have or to, really let the world know if you felt comfortable doing that about what your thoughts are on these medicines.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, growing up, I did a lot of psychedelics and like the thought of natural versus synthetic never even crossed my mind. You know what I mean? It's like, what can it do for me? And then, I started working with the mushrooms. And even then it didn't I wouldn't be like, oh, just natural. No, but kind of when I first started in this space, when I started working with the mushrooms again and started seeing the different viewpoints, I for a long time subscribed to this only natural mindset, but really it started coming around the other end. I saw where Albert Hoffman stated that he firmly believed that the divine was involved in his rediscovering or resynthesizing the LSD 25. Sasha Shulgin discovered MDMA again, just by a whole fluke. You know what I mean? Like these people were just in a lab and then bam, here it is, And then I started through my journeys to just realize that absolutely everything is in divine and perfect order, timing, and sequence, And so when we have these substances that we know and the research shows help people that they're having religious experiences, to me now, it doesn't matter whether it's synthetic or real, you know what I mean? And then let's talk about silomethoxin for a minute. I mean, you can feed synthetic tryptamines to a mushroom substrate and it recognizes it and it will in itself synthesize it into something else, another tryptamine. And so, what we're making above ground isn't that different or not recognized by nature itself, right? So that's another clue to me that these synthetics, they're really, now there might be some differences in the qualities of the experience, but I think the nuts and bolts of what's occurring, where it takes you, and the possibilities in that space are all the same.
Amazing.
Well, I will say one thing, that I do prefer synthetics that I know the person, because I will say this, I do have a theory that when people make something synthetically, particularly when it's crystallized, right? So this would really be pertinent to like MDMA, that their energy and intention at that time gets encapsulated into the substance and then it's released when heated, right? So it's really towards things that are crystallized per se, right? But, things that are generically made in a lab, like the ketamine, I feel like it's just kind of a blank slate. But then it's really who's serving it, what kind of intention and do they have, right? So I do believe there are metaphysical aspects still to even the synthetics, right? So I do kind of look around like that, but for like a ketamine clinic, I'm sure it was either made in a lab or like a compounding pharmacy, not like a cartel, and so all that's good to go. But yeah, I nowadays I advocate for whatever calls to people, really, to be honest with you. I think that we're all going to be called to specific things at specific times, and whether it's synthetic or natural, it's not me to judge, and it's definitely not me to judge the profundity or anything about your experience, right? That's all, for someone else, the person who's actually consuming them, to judge, not me.
Dr. Ferber kind of says the same thing. He says, what does he say? What is it? You say it so much better than I do.
What?
That at our facility, people, it's the energy of the healers going into it that are trying to help you through.
That we're a true healing organism at our facility. And it is, listen, like if you're around people that are, that are high vibrational, that have the intention of helping people heal and things like that, rather than just serving medicine and it's a numbers thing, I think that's a huge intricate part of the actual healing process that happens. And listen, and I completely agree with you on like who's making medicines, the energy that is put out. It's like, I hear people that grow mushrooms sometimes sit there and, they play, Bach or whatever. And
that's real. I've engaged in that behavior.
Yeah. And tell the mushrooms that they love them every day and stuff like that, and speak on that, healing energy. And I'm 100% believer. You couldn't convince me any differently that has an effect on the medicines, because our body is taking on the vibration of the medicine, no matter whether it's a crystal or a mushroom or whatever it is that we're consuming. Our body's taking on the vibration and the energy of that medicine. And when that medicine's grown or made with love, it has a huge effect on the actual medicine.
Yeah, when I first was working with the sacred, and to me, to really build a relationship like with the sacred mushrooms, so it requires you propagating them on your own. It not to say you can't build a relationship with it, not doing it, but like, I just remember I had no mystical or any kind of views towards the mushrooms, right? And we started me and a friend of mine started propagating. It's like this one day I opened up the container and I just realized like, these are sentient beings. Like they know I'm here, I could just sense it. And ever since that day, it shifted. And I will say that there have been times where, through a mushroom journey, it's relayed to me what music to play for the other ones. So yeah, it's like I'll be on a playlist, I'll be like this one, and then you go and periodically play those songs for them, and I'm almost convinced that it absolutely has an effect both on the rate and size of their growth, but also coming out in the experience.
Amazing. So I guess I'd love to talk to you and let you go ahead and talk about EntheoConnect and what it is and what it means to you.
Yeah, it's funny today that we're talking about it because, part of my reasoning, and so I'll start with this. It's a worldwide digital listing and social media platform for people, again, in the entheogen and spirituality, and then also medical scientific community. So it's like this. We're going to start out with an interactive map, and we're going to have reputable entheogenic churches, ketamine clinics. Anybody who's going to be advertising that they're serving a scheduled substance there is going to be vetted by me and my team, right, to make sure that we only have people that at the very least are going to be safe. And then also service providers. So it's going to be people who do Reiki. I think we have like 50 tags for service providers, right? Just these people that do all these things that run in conjunction with these types of practices. Is going to be our first phase. And then within 4 months, we're going to have a social media platform that's going to be very group and community based, where if you have a listing, you get your own group. So you can put all your following over there. Now, here's where this becomes even more crucial. And I'll tell you just an experience I had today is yesterday I published a YouTube video, merely my legal commentary about a complaint that was filed in federal court against the DEA in Arizona. So literally my commentary about a publicly filed document that an ayahuasca church sued the DEA. Facebook wouldn't let me push it. Yeah, they wouldn't let me push it out there. And that's when you're getting to that level, it becomes very ridiculous. And I tell you, a lot of people in the space have spent a lot of time and resources to build up followings on these social media platforms. And it's every week I'm hearing people getting banned from Instagram, getting accounts shut down. And it's like, we just need to create our own space and go from there, right? Because there is no real standard on there, right? It's like the day before I pushed a post that talks about the history of sacred mushroom use. Fine. Then I try to push a post with me talking about court documents, and it's like, no. So there is no standard. It's whatever agenda, and I'm not going to sit here and say I know what that is, but whatever agenda they want to push, it probably changes day by day. So I just want to create a platform where people can feel safe and secure. They can build their following. You're not going to get shut down. You can talk about this entheogen spirituality related content and really whatever, as long as it's not hateful or fighting words. And so, yeah, I just see it. There's like signs from the universe every single day that like we need this type of space. And so I've set out to build it.
I love
That's amazing. Yeah. I've tried to boost a post for IV vitamins and Facebook told me that I couldn't do it. It's vitamins.
Yeah. It's crazy. There is no, it's like someone asked me, well, why did they deny it? there is no explanation or no standard. It's just some Poindexter behind a desk, probably like, oh, I don't, this is stupid. This is stupid. I don't like this or something. It's like, let's get away from that and let's just let people talk freely. I love the idea of creating a marketplace for ideas. I like the idea of healthy debate. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like the idea of calling people out of name or getting, going back and forth, but like, healthy debate and like, let's move this along within our own community and get people to come over to where we're at.
For sure, man. I love it.
Yeah.
So I guess another thing that you do that I would love to touch on is it's I think one of the most important services to humanity you could possibly do is you help set up entheogenic churches.
Yeah. So I was guided. Basically, I was told by the entity who was Anubis said, write this first book on psilocybin and your higher path will be revealed. And so I finally wrote the book. It took me 8 months to even understand that's what was relayed, right? But it like hit me like clockwork one day. So I wrote my first book. Within a week, I was getting approached by people. What do you know about this? And so I started doing research and started helping. And then today I've done 40 projects, but yeah, I just help people what we call, enshrine their rights under the religious laws, right? Like you don't have to go to the government to get permission to practice these types of practices. But obviously, if it ends up in court, there's going to be certain things that they look at to determine whether, in fact, you are exempt from the Controlled Substances Act. So I just help people on the front end get those documents and structure together to give them the best chance possible in the event that it's ever called into question to get that exemption if it goes to court, which we hope obviously that it never does, but we try to prepare people for that, if it does.
I love it, man. Listen, the world, like you're an amazing individual. I consider you a real friend, you know? And I appreciate you because you walk the walk, man. There's a lot of people in this world that are getting into this field that really are just about monetary reasons. And it's really not about the people or about the spiritual aspect of everything. And you're the real deal, man.
It's so beautiful is that, man, I tell you, I've never made it one day about money in this thing. And I don't want for nothing. You know what I mean? I literally just show up with a good attitude every day, motivated to help people, and everything else falls in line. Like there are plenty of resources to go around. Like there's no need to focus on money in this. Like it's all coming perfectly in order in divine timing. Right. And so, yeah, there's no reason to make money. And here's one thing I tell people, these substances open you up to see through people. And as people consume these, they can see those people. Right. Yeah. And it's not in line with the true core fundamental values of this space. And eventually those people, I think, are going to get pushed to the wayside. Just my opinion.
We agree because this is one field where it's like, listen, this is all about frequencies and like energy and, we are the universe. So you can't fake out the universe on this one. And if you don't have the right intentions in this field, I personally don't feel that people will last long. But and the thing is that, and I tell this to Christina all the time, and we completely agree about it, is like in this field, if you just worry about helping the next person heal, all of the other stuff is going to fall into place. It's like, but that's what the main focus needs to be. And I think
opportunities abound in this space, opening up every day. So you just start somewhere, just put all your time, love, and effort into it. And I promise you, doors will open left and right. And there'll be so many that you get to pick and choose which opportunities that you want to take advantage of. Right. And that's so beautiful. It's like to be in a space where helping people and putting a few dollars in your pocket go hand in hand. To me, that's the pinnacle of existence in this third dimension.
100%, man. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to get in contact with you, how do they do that?
Yeah, they can shoot me an email, george.lake@entheoconnect.com. I am open to meet with just about anybody. I've made it a point to do that through my career here. And that's another thing. It has served me very well. I don't care if you don't have nothing, if you've got $1 million, like just hit me up. We'll meet for at least 30 minutes and touch base, and let's see what we can work out together.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah. And one other thing you're talking about, it's about frequency. One of the main things that I can contribute my success in this space is just going into every single meeting with the highest frequency possible and making a resolve not to let any lower vibrations bring me down. So if I go in a meeting and someone's kind of down and out, they're coming up to my level. I'm not going to change my frequency, and people love it, man. Yeah. And it's helped me out so much, because even when I'm kind of feeling down a little bit, it's like, okay, I'm going to go in this meeting. I'm going to be high vibration. I'm going to do it. And by the end of the meeting, all this other that was bothering me before, I don't even remember it.
I told Charles that yesterday.
Yeah, and Charles, I want to sing praise to you, because you're the real deal, man. Because let me tell you, I know a lot of people in this space that have served a lot of medicine, done a lot of medicine, and are still stuck in a very separation, dissonance frequency, right? But you are a person that is not that I've never heard you speak bad about a person, like, ever, like, even if they've done you wrong. And like, to me, if I'm going to choose someone to serve me medicine, that's the one thing I look at, like, or how do they speak about others? Do they speak in terms of unity, or do they speak in terms of dissonance? Because to me, that's the number one indicator about whether someone's going to be able to give in a container of unconditional love for you to process your medicine, which I think is critical, because without it, I think you let in other possible attachments and entities and things without that kind of, circle of unconditional love. And I feel like the people best fit to do it are people like you.
Man, I really, we appreciate that. I appreciate that very much.
And Christina too. I mean, it's your whole facility, really, to be honest with you. You know what I mean? It's like the whole thing, you can tell, is just loved and cared for, like the whole grounds, which I do still believe are ancient sacred grounds. But yeah, it's that whole vibe. And I mean, it means the world of difference.
Thank you, man. That means a lot. Listen, there are no coincidences. I'm truly grateful that our paths crossed. And, I have a feeling that this is just the beginning of an amazing relationship where we're going to help a lot of people together, man.
Absolutely. We're going to change the world. Literally.
100%. Can't convince me any other way, brother.
Yeah, I know. Me either.
Thank you. That is all the time we have for today. And we will certainly have you on another one of our shows as EntheoConnect gets launched
100%, man.
And starts rolling. But thank you to all of our listeners for joining us on this edition of Psychedelic Radio. You can download our past episodes of our program by going to cannabisradio.com or subscribing to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. To learn more about Greg, please email him at sorry, I tried to work you in there.
You could, I mean, if you want to, just tell him to go to EntheoConnect.com or to email me at george.lake@EntheoConnect.
Okay.
Okay.
What was it? George.lake@EntheoConnect?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you to all of our listeners for joining us on this edition of Psychedelic Radio. You can download past episodes of our program by going to cannabisradio.com or by subscribing to our show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. To learn more about Greg, please go to EntheoConnect.com, and to learn more about psychedelic ketamine therapy, please visit our website at myselfwellness.center. Thanks for joining us today. And if nobody's told you that they love you, we do.
The opinions expressed on this CannabisRadio.com program are those of the guests and hosts and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff and management of CannabisRadio.com. Any rebroadcast, republication, or retransmission of this program without proper consent is prohibited.